This wasn't just 100,000. I'd brought a full 10 million rupees in cash up into the mountains to buy honey. But the moment it was time to load it into the trucks, every beekeeper in the village suddenly hiked their prices. The rate we'd already agreed on, they flatly went back on it. They even said, "Let the honey rot, we're just not selling it to you." I stood there stunned for a moment. Then the village head, glancing at this young stranger, hurried to smooth things over. I noticed that the very beekeepers I knew well were all standing behind Zhang Hao. Not one of them would meet my eyes. That's when it hit me. This was bigger than it looked. I said calmly, "We've already signed a contract. The rate was already fixed. What's left to discuss?" Still smiling, I added, "Time's short. Let's load the honey first. Then we can sit down and talk this through properly." Wait. I hadn't even finished when Chain Auntie came running out of the crowd. She flung her arms wide and stood like a wall in front of the honey drums. "Let's see who dares touch my family's honey," I asked, staying calm. "Chain Auntie, what are you doing? We have a contract. Delivery was supposed to happen today, and I've brought cash payment with me. Do you really mean to break the contract?" Zhang Hao, standing beside her, laughed. Waving a piece of paper, he said, "Stop scaring simple people. It's the market price that decides now. That's the real rate." He turned to the villagers and called out loudly, "Tell everyone, what's honey selling for today?" One man said, "Online, it's going for more than 80. Another chimed in immediately, "In some places, it's hit 100. Then one of the beekeepers pulled out his phone and showed a screenshot of the online price. Zhang Hao turned back to me, smiling. "You heard them, Boss Zhuang. The rate you're offering is a plain injustice to these people." I was seething inside, but I kept myself calm and explained patiently, "Mr. Zhang, that's not how it works. First, the price you're showing is retail, not the buying price. Second, business runs on trust and contracts. A month ago, when nobody was even interested in buying this honey, I was the one who gave a guarantee and bought it. Nobody was talking about market economics back then." I pointed to the road below. "I built that road too, out of my own pocket, 20 million rupees, so your village's honey could reach the outside world easily. And now that road brings in outsiders," he said. "Straight talk. We want 50 rupees a kilo." "Not one paisa less," I answered at once. 50 rupees? Even now, first-grade honey is buying at 35 to 38, and you want 50 straight up? That's outright robbery. Unfazed, he said, "Understand this. The honey is in our hands. If your 15 trucks go back empty, it won't cost you thousands, it'll cost you lakhs, just in the round trip. And on top of that, there's the mess of the contract." Then, lightly, "Besides, this contract was never really an equal one. If it goes to court, we might not lose. Think about it." He came right up close and said quietly, "Boss, you'll pack this same honey and sell it comfortably for 120 a kilo. If a small cut of that comes to us, what's wrong with that?" A sly smile crossed his face. "Don't be so greedy. Too much greed is never good." I didn't answer him. I looked straight at the village head, Li Deguo. "Sir, is this your view as well?" The village head said, with a faint smile, "Boss, everyone has their own compulsions, and the market rate has gone up too. Why not show a bit of a bigger heart? What will you really lose by paying 50? Just a little less profit. Just a little less profit." Hearing that, I laughed inwardly. The truth was, I'd come today prepared to pay up to 38 rupees a kilo, but now, standing in front of me, were people who had mistaken my kindness for weakness, who had come to see my help as their entitlement. I said, staying calm, "I'm not one for pointless arguing either. 38 a kilo, that's my final price. I won't go higher. The 8 extra rupees I'm adding, take it as something given to save someone's face. Now load the honey, I'll pay cash right here." At that moment, 38 rupees a kilo was already the highest buying price anywhere in the market for honey. I thought I'd given them every honorable chance to settle this. If they thought about it sensibly, it would end right there. But I had badly underestimated human greed. Someone shouted, "Do you think we're beggars?" Another said, "He's shown us honey sells for 80 rupees and you're offering just 38. Your greed has crossed every limit." Another man yelled angrily, Are you trying to fool us? Not 1 paisa less than 50. If you don't even have that much honesty, go back where you came from. Then someone else shouted, we'll sell this honey ourselves. Live online. We'll get 100 then. Their anger only grew louder as I spoke, and my mind went back a few months, to when I'd first come to this village. I'd heard how badly off they were, and I'd paid out of my own pocket to build the road up to the village. Not just that, I'd fixed a generous rate of 30 rupees a kilo, and promised that whether the honey was first grade or a little lower quality, I'd buy it all at the same price, because I knew that handling honey carefully and getting it out to distant markets was no easy task. To keep the honey safe and get it out without spoiling, I'd specially ordered food-grade, high-density storage drums. I'd also had new, modern beekeeping boxes built, ones that could monitor temperature, and had them delivered to the village at my own expense. But then, across the whole country, the weather suddenly turned. The big honey-producing regions of North India suffered heavy losses from bitter cold and frost. Meanwhile, several major honey-producing areas in the south couldn't even manage half their usual yield because of continuous rain. But this village's luck was different. Being surrounded by mountains on every side, the cold winds never reached them. And the rain here was lighter too, so the flowers here produced sweeter nectar than before, and the honey's quality improved as well. Because of this, the market buying price of honey climbed to 35 rupees a kilo. The moment I heard this news, I made a decision. I told my finance team, the contract says 30 rupees, but prepare the payment at 38 a kilo, the whole amount in cash. My accountant was stunned. Sir, the contract is for 30 rupees. If we pay 38, our profit drops by several lakhs. I smiled and said, think long term. If we give a bit more today, it'll build their trust that working with me never brings them a loss. That's the real investment. I'd thought that a favor done with a sincere heart would surely be remembered one day. Today I understood just how wrong I was. I nodded slowly. Fine. If that's your decision, then go sell your own honey yourselves. Saying this, I folded up the contract I was holding, put it back in my pocket, and turned toward all my drivers. There was no anger on my face anymore, only a cold calm, and even the people standing there got uneasy seeing it. I gave the order in a loud voice. Everyone, listen up. Get in the trucks. We're heading back to the city. The moment he heard me, driver Lao Zhang jumped, the walkie-talkie nearly slipping from his hand. He said nervously, Boss, are we really going back? We've got all 15 trucks parked here. Lao Zhang said quickly, Boss, we've already burned so much diesel coming and going. Let's try talking once more. If they'll settle at 40, the honey really is excellent. We could take it to the city and sell it easily. I answered without thinking twice. No, there's nothing left to discuss. Then, looking him in the eye, I said, remember, money lost in business can always be earned back. But if someone crushes your dignity and you still smile and swallow it, you'll never be able to walk with your head held high for the rest of your life. Follow the order. Lao Zhang answered right away. Yes, sir. Then he called out loudly. Everyone, get in the trucks. We're heading back to the city. Watching this, the villagers froze too. They were fully convinced I'd cave in the end, that I'd haggle and reluctantly agree to 50 rupees a kilo. After all, who walks away from an order this big, leaving behind losses in the lakhs? Just then, Zhang Hao ran toward me angrily, pointing his finger and shouting, Boss Zhuang, if you leave from here today, remember, even if you come crawling back on your knees later, we won't sell you a single drop of honey. I stopped in my tracks, then looked at him the way you'd look at a clown making a pointless scene. I said calm but firm, Villagers, remember well the things you've said today. One day it'll become clear who was wrong, me or you. Someone above is watching all of this. Then someone shouted from the crowd, Don't try to scare us by invoking God's name. We're only asking for what's ours. You're the real greedy one here. I smiled faintly. Fine. If you're so certain that going live will get this honey sold at 100 rupees a kilo, then I wish you well from the heart. May you all make plenty of money. This great fortune, perhaps, just wasn't meant for me, so you all can hold on to it and take care of it. With that, I got into my car without looking back. As soon as our full line of 15 trucks pulled out from the mountain road, A roar of celebration rose across the whole village. They thought they'd just won a great victory. The moment we left the village, Zhang Hao climbed straight onto the raised platform in the village square. He shouted loudly, "You all saw it. That's the real face of capitalists." He got scared. He realized he can't profit off our hard work anymore. Today, the victory is ours. The crowd cheered along in excitement. Exactly right. Our honey is such high quality, we don't need any trader anymore. We'll go live ourselves. Not 80, we'll sell straight at 100 rupees a kilo. That day, the whole village celebrated, as if it were some great festival. Everyone felt they defeated a greedy trader, but they didn't remember that in the hard times, when nobody came to help them through the snowfall and bad weather, I was the only one who had stood by them. Back in the city, I went straight to the company. I told the finance director, "Take the 10 million rupees in cash we brought and deposit it back in the bank." The finance director said, worried, "Sir, 20 million was spent on the village road. Then, cold storage, packing, and other advances, nearly 4 million is already tied up. How will such a big loss be recovered?" I answered calmly, "Consider it life's tuition fee." Then I gave the next order. Tell the team, prepare a case against every farmer who signed the contract, for breach of contract. We may not get the money back, but they'll have to pay the price for what they've done. The finance director nodded, "Yes, sir." Then he asked, "Sir, what about the honey supply, now that it's cut off?" I said at once, "Get in touch with the people in Yunnan. The price there will be a bit higher, but the supply will be reliable. A little less profit is fine, but our company's reputation cannot take a hit." After all the work was done, I picked up my phone. My eye caught a small video app. Zhang Hao had made a new account there, called Fenglun Hao. He'd already uploaded his first video. "I've finished college and come back to the village. Come, let me give you a taste of real, pure honey found deep in the mountains." The video's title read, "The middleman's game is over. Pure mountain honey, straight from the farmer. First live stream tonight." Out of curiosity, I opened his live stream too. At that time, 200 or 300 people had joined. He stood in Chain Ani's courtyard with those same blue drums I'd sent them behind him. The lighting in the courtyard was poor, the camera quality was bad too. Zhang Hao, in a loose-fitting suit, was loudly hawking the honey to the camera. In his hand was the same special sampling spoon I'd had made for showing off the honey. He'd scoop out a spoonful and show its long, drizzling stream to the camera, trying to impress viewers with its quality. Behind him, Chain Auntie and a few other village women were smiling forcedly, holding a cardboard sign with crooked lettering, 100% pure natural honey. I read a few comments, then closed the stream without saying a word. Only a faint smile crossed my face. They still had no idea that selling honey is easy. Winning people's trust is the hardest part of all. Without a brand, customers don't trust you easily. Then comes the next big problem. Without professional packing, cushioning materials, and proper foam boxes, 5 out of 10 bottles shipped could break on the way. But the real danger was still to come. They didn't even have the required license to sell food products. Selling small quantities directly within the village is one thing, but the moment you sell on a big online platform, professional complaint filers keep watch. If even a single complaint holds up, the whole business can be shut down in an instant. On top of that, they'd priced the honey at 88 rupees. At that price, every customer expects not just the honey, but packing, service, delivery, the entire experience, to match. All they had were the plainest plastic bottles, but the dream was to sell it like an expensive brand. That thinking was far removed from reality from the very start. Just as I'd expected, it started well. A college graduate returns to the village to start a business. That story caught on through friends on social media, giving them a good start. On the very first day, they sold hundreds of bottles. Chain Auntie and the rest of the village were overjoyed. That same night, everyone got to work. Someone filled empty mineral water bottles with honey. Someone else used old glass jars. However they could, they sealed them up, wrapped them in newspaper, packed them into plain cardboard boxes, and sent them off by courier. Just shipping one parcel cost 12 rupees in courier fees. The double dreams Zhang Hao had promised earlier shrank quite a bit once the packing and delivery costs were subtracted. Still, the villagers were happy. After all, Even after selling at 88 rupees, they were left with more than 70 rupees in hand, which was still far more than my 38 rupee price. Now the villagers openly started mocking me, but their happiness didn't last long. Just a few days later, once the first orders reached customers, the real trouble began. Meanwhile, Zhang Hao lay at home comfortably dreaming of getting rich, when his phone started ringing non-stop. He picked it up, and the next moment his face turned pale. The screen showed nothing but refund requests and one-star reviews. Some customer complained the packing was so bad the honey had leaked out. Some questioned the quality of the honey. Some started talking about filing formal complaints. Zhang Hao, panicking, kept trying to reassure everyone, but by now, no one was willing to listen to him. With so many complaints pouring in, the platform itself stepped in. They didn't even have the required license to sell food products. And just like that, Zhang Hao's account was shut down immediately, and his security deposit was frozen too. But the real trouble was still ahead. The customers who received broken bottles didn't just ask for refunds. They started demanding compensation for ruined clothes and floors too. Within just 1 week, of the more than 300 orders sold, 90% came back as returns. The remaining customers didn't bother returning the goods only because they didn't want the hassle, but they too left one-star reviews straight away. Chain Auntie sat in her home, staring at all those sticky, returned parcels. On her phone screen, the red notice of the frozen account glowed. Seeing all this, she sat right down on the ground and began to cry. In a corner, Zhang Hao stood quietly, all his earlier arrogance completely gone. The boy who, just days ago, had made grand claims in front of the whole village, now there was only sweat on his forehead. But the biggest trouble was only just beginning. The plain, uncleaned containers they had packed the honey into, the moment the weather turned warm, that became their biggest mistake. Without proper sealing and sterilization, that excellent honey slowly began to spoil inside the plastic containers. The sweet, floral fragrance that used to fill the air was now replaced with a faint, sour smell, like alcohol. The moment the livestream account was shut down, all the villagers' enthusiasm vanished in an instant. In the village square, every farmer stood worried, holding torn parcel receipts in hand. Anxiety was clearly written on every face. But Zhang Hao still wasn't ready to give up. He said, "Don't worry, I'll talk to other buying companies right now." Saying this, he pulled out his phone in front of everyone and started dialing numbers of different honey buying companies he'd found online. But he had no idea that, the very day after I had left, I had already sent an important notice to the entire province's Agricultural Products Industry Association group. It laid out exactly what had happened in the village, all of it, true to fact. In the supply chain business, the biggest fear is this. If the supplier itself pulls away, the whole operation grinds to a halt. After that, Zhang Hao made call after call, but nearly everywhere he got a similar answer. "Hello, is this such and such? We've got top-quality honey from the village. That's from Li Deguo's village? Yes, that one. Oh, that's the same honey Boss Zhuang refused to buy, isn't it? Look at your nerve. You upset the one man everyone wants to stay on good terms with. I don't want to make an enemy of him over nothing." Hearing this, Zhang Hao's face fell, but he steadied himself and said, "No problem. Let's try elsewhere." He immediately dialed another number. "Hello, manager. I hear you buy honey in bulk. We've got 30,000 jin of honey. What will you pay?" "Market rate's 80, but we'll give it to you at 60. 60? Sounds like you still haven't woken up. Boss Zhuang offered you 38, and you didn't sell. Now you want me to come along and take the loss? I'll give 20 at the most. Sell it or don't, up to you. 20? That's robbery. Then keep it for yourselves and drink it." Even after this, Zhang Hao made more than 10 calls, but nowhere did he get good news. Some hung up straight away, some started mocking the village name the moment they heard it, some even started hurling insults, calling them stubborn villagers. The worst came from a trader who bought low-grade honey to mix into animal feed. He laughed loudly on the phone. "Heard you all chased off Boss Zhuang. Quite the achievement. But your honey's reputation has spread everywhere by now, as ruined. I can buy it, but only at 10 yuan per jin. Frankly, I don't care about your reputation anyway. I make pig feed. Sell it or don't, up to you." Hearing this, Zhang Hao hung up the phone at once. The next moment, dead silence fell over the entire village gathering. Then someone shouted angrily, "Was this your big claim? Everyone would line up to buy? Line up? No one's even asking. You've ruined the whole village." Zhang Hao said, panicking. "This isn't my fault. It must be that Zhuang Weifan doing something. He's the one getting us blacklisted everywhere." Think about it, how else could every single buyer refuse at once? But no one was willing to listen to him anymore. One villager said, "When Zhuang was offering 38, that wasn't good enough for you. You wanted 80. Now the situation is such that people are offering 10 yuan like it's a favor." Another said angrily, "I spent 500 yuan in courier costs from my own house, and I didn't get a single paisa back." Another man shouted, "It's not just the losses. Our honey containers, our packing, everything got ruined too. Look, it's all lying spoiled. What do we do with it now?" And that was it. The villagers erupted completely. The one they'd put on a pedestal as an educated young man just yesterday was now, in everyone's eyes, the biggest culprit of all. People started shoving Zhang Hao. He lost his balance, and his neatly styled hair came completely undone and messy. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my office. When I heard the voice message my man had sent, a faint smile crossed my lips. This is what they call cutting off your own feet with your own axe. The business world runs by its own rules. When someone breaks those rules for a small gain, those very same rules eventually destroy them badly. And I didn't even need to deliberately blacklist them. I simply put the truth in front of everyone, and after that, the business system, which runs on trust and reputation, threw them out on its own. But the villagers' biggest trouble was still to come. If the honey simply didn't sell, they could have sold it cheap or slowly used it themselves. But it seemed fate was determined to teach them a lesson too. Over the next few days, the temperature in the mountains suddenly rose. By afternoon, the mercury climbed past 20 degrees. This weather was extremely dangerous for honey. The honey itself had been of very good quality, but during the live streams, they kept scooping it out and pouring it back repeatedly, and while packing it, used tools that hadn't been sanitized. Not only that, the professional honey sealing kits I'd given them, those went unused too. For the sake of convenience, they just covered the tops with a single layer of plastic. That day, the moment Chain Shen stepped into the courtyard, she noticed a strange smell. It wasn't the fragrance of flowers, it was a sharp, sour, alcohol-like odor. Panicking, she rushed to one of the big drums and pulled back the plastic cover. What she saw inside made her heart drop. The honey that had once been as clear and shining as amber now had tiny white bubbles rising to the surface, constantly bubbling up, and a sharp, sour stench was pouring out of it, so strong that Chain Shen could barely breathe. Within moments, panic spread through the entire village. It wasn't just Chain Shen's honey. Almost every household's honey had started spoiling. The villagers panicked, crying and shouting. Watching the frothing, souring honey pouring out of their own homes, they were utterly broken. Li Deguo stood staring at the plastic drums in his courtyard, which had swollen up like balloons. His legs gave out from under him, and he sat right down on the ground. In anger, he scooped up a little of the spoiled honey and put it in his mouth, and spat it out the very next moment. Meanwhile, Zhang Hao was quietly packing his bag, preparing to flee the village. For the past few days he'd been hiding at his in-laws' place. He knew that if he stayed any longer, the villagers, in their fury, would beat him. A little way off, Li Deguo watched the whole spectacle. The cigarette in his hand had snapped in two. Looking at the ruins spread all around, a memory suddenly came back to him, of the day I had left the village. At that time, there had been no anger in my eyes, only, for them, a quiet sorrow. Now a strange, sour, foul smell had spread across the whole village. It wasn't just the smell of spoiled honey, it was the smell of greed rotting away. Meanwhile, about 100 kilometers from the village, I was sitting in a fine restaurant in the city with my new business partner, who had come from Yunnan. He smiled and said, "Don't worry about the price." Just then my phone buzzed. My man had sent a video from the village. In it, the villagers stood around the pile of spoiled sour honey, blaming each other, shouting and wailing everywhere. I glanced at the video once, then closed it without any expression. My partner across the table asked, "What happened, Boss Zhuang?" I smiled faintly. Nothing. Just some farce that isn't even worth laughing at. But the story didn't end there. It's when every road is closed that a person remembers those they once turned away. Just then, my secretary rushed in, flustered. "Boss, there's a huge commotion downstairs." "Commotion? Where's security?" "Security can't hold them back. There are too many people. Around 25 have come with banners. Some are even on their knees at the gate, crying. They're saying these are your villagers. They've come to apologize." I went to the window and looked down. In the big plaza outside the company, the villagers stood, clothes dirty, heads bowed, and not one of them had the courage to look up. The one who once thought himself the greatest was now, propped up by two others, kneeling right at the front, bowing his head over and over to apologize to the security guards. In their hands was a banner, its crooked letters reading, "We beg the boss's forgiveness. Please save our village." Seeing this, a cold smile crossed my face. How strange. Just a month ago, these very people, in front of the whole village, had called me greedy and dishonest, had forced me to leave the village, and today, those same people had traveled hundreds of kilometers to kneel outside my company. They hoped I would be their last hope. My assistant asked, "Boss, should I call the police?" I said calmly, "No need. Let them wait downstairs. Just let them wait." For them, this was perhaps about to become the longest wait of their entire lives. About an hour later, the head of the security team came to me and said, "Boss, things downstairs have gotten worse. Chain Shen has fainted twice from crying. Li Deguo keeps slapping himself, and the villagers have completely surrounded Zhang Hao." The villagers had made Zhang Hao kneel right at the front. Bruises, blue and purple, were clearly visible on his face. It looked like he'd taken quite a beating before even arriving here. A little later, I went down slowly with my secretary and a few senior company officials. The villagers had brought some large honey drums with them too, but from being jostled on the way, many hadn't stayed properly sealed. The spoiled, fermented honey inside was leaking, and the sour, rotten smell spread across the gleaming plaza of the whole business district. Office workers passing by covered their noses and stared, everyone stepping wide around them as if avoiding some great calamity. The honey these people once proudly called liquid gold had now become their greatest shame. The moment they saw me, the noise suddenly died down. For one moment, the whole scene fell silent. Then, in the very next second, several people began sobbing and begging in front of me. "Boss Zhuang, we made a mistake. Greed blinded us. We couldn't understand what you meant. Please forgive us." Chain Shen crawled forward on her knees, trying to reach me, but the security guards held her back. Crying, she began knocking her head against the ground, a dull thudding sound coming from her forehead each time, but she refused to stop. Li Deguo came forward, trembling, an old tobacco pipe in his hand. He stood silent for a few moments, as if he had no words left, then sat down in a corner, head bowed, looking like some frightened animal. All the pride and confidence that used to always show on his face was completely gone. I stood on the steps, watching them all with a calm gaze. Their faces were withered, and regret, fear, and helplessness were plainly visible in their eyes. It was hard to believe that these were the same people who, a month ago, blinded by greed, had spoken with such arrogance. But I remembered everything clearly. I remembered what had been said. Only poor people sell for 30 yuan. I remembered what Chain Shen had said. A contract means nothing. And what Li Deguo had said. Everyone has their own compulsions. I looked at Li Deguo and said, "Calm. Village head, do you remember the contract now? When I brought the trucks to the village, you all called this very contract worthless scrap paper." Hearing this, Li Deguo's face flushed red with shame. The contract in his hand hung frozen in midair. He could neither offer it forward nor pull it back. He said, voice trembling, "Boss Zhuang, all the fault is ours. But this all happened because of Zhang Hao. He's the one who told us the honey would sell for 80 yuan. He's the one who showed us fake pictures and misled us. We've brought him with us too. Give whatever punishment you want. Just buy our honey." The moment he heard this, Zhang Hao collapsed to the ground, crying and trembling. "Boss Zhuang, I made a mistake. I didn't understand anything. I didn't even know the law. Please, forgive me." Even seeing his state, I felt not even a shred of pity, only disgust. I said, in a cold voice, enough of this drama. You people don't hate Zhang Hao because he cheated you. The real reason is that he couldn't make you any money. If the honey had actually sold for 80 yuan that day, would you be kicking him now? No, you'd be carrying him on your shoulders, and all of you together would be mocking me, saying, "What a fool Zhuang Weifan is." That's what you'd be saying, isn't it? The moment I finished speaking, a deep silence fell over the entire crowd. Hearing my words, the villagers began looking at each other's faces. Their truth had come out in front of everyone, and out of shame, not one of them could bring their eyes up. I walked slowly down the steps and went to stand beside the honey drum Chain Shen had brought. That blue plastic drum too. I was the one who'd bought it for them once. Now it was in terrible shape, the whole drum filthy, a sticky liquid oozing out from its edges. The moment I reached out to touch it, a sharp sour stench hit my nose first. Chain Shen said quickly, "Boss Zhuang, there's a bit of a smell, but it can still be eaten. Process it a little and it'll be fine." I cut her off. Process it? I run a high food business, not a garbage buying one. The fermentation in this honey has gone so far that even pouring it down a drain would cause pollution. And you want me to buy it? The villagers said, panicking. We'll lower the price even more. Give us 10 yuan, at least something for our hard work. I looked at the village head. Village head Li, do you still not understand? This was never about money. When I built the village road, I spent 20 million. I spent lakhs more on climate protection equipment. Then I came to the village with 10 million rupees in cash and a whole fleet of trucks. The high rate of 38 yuan I gave you wasn't just a price, it was my trust. But you people took that very trust, threw it on the ground, and crushed it. That trust is broken now, and broken trust never mends again. Even if this honey became the most valuable honey in the world today, I still wouldn't buy it, because its reputation is finished now, not just for me, but across the entire agricultural trade. Hearing this, the villagers began crying again. Boss Zhuang, don't abandon us like this. You built that road yourself. Now you're the one who has to help us too. I looked at them and said, calm. Yes, I built that road. But I built it so prosperity would come to the village, so all of you could become well off. I never imagined that the same road would draw out the greed hidden inside you. That road will stay right where it is. How you use it to change your lives from here is now entirely up to you. With that, I didn't look at them again. I turned and walked straight back into the company. Behind me, the sounds of crying, shouting, and pleading kept coming without pause. The security guards formed a human wall, holding the villagers back outside. But my steps didn't stop, not even for a moment. I knew that right then I looked very harsh, but I also knew this: showing mercy to people who break trust is an injustice to those who keep their word. Back in the office, I stood in front of the large glass window. Down below, the villagers were slowly making their way back, carrying their spoiled honey and a lifetime of regret in their trucks. Within a few moments, they vanished from my sight. On my table sat a fresh cup of honey tea. This honey had come from the new farm in Yunnan. Its golden color and fragrance were both remarkable. I picked up the cup and took a sip. It was wonderfully sweet. Perhaps this is the true taste of trust, and of standing by one's word. And for those people, only one taste was left for the rest of their lives: the taste of the bitter fruit sown by their own greed. A taste more bitter than any poison.